Famed investor Andrew Carnegie is credited with saying that 90% of all millionaires become so through owning real estate. Now, you can't argue the fact that if you want to build wealth, real estate should be, maybe it doesn't have to be, but should be considered as part of your portfolio. You know, think about all of the millionaires or billionaires that exist in the world. Many of them own some sort of real estate. But for many investors that are just getting started, real estate can be it can be scary. It's like, man, how do I actually go out and buy a property? How do I value a property? How do I find it? How do I make sure that I'm getting a good deal? For many new investors, the idea of trying to find a property and not losing everything that you have is just too much. So people don't make the effort. What I want to talk about today is a way that you can become a real estate investor and you can actually see the properties that you actually own. And the best part, you can get started for as little as $10. And even better, you don't even have to leave your house. Is this really true? Does this really exist? It does. And I'm going to share what I'm talking about and more right now. What's going on, y'all? Welcome to Good Financial Sense TV. I'm your host, Jeff Rose. All right, so what we're talking about right now is real estate investing, and this is what is called crowdfunding real estate investing. And you probably have heard of some of the big players that are in this space. The most common name that you're going to hear nowadays is Fundrise. Now, Fundrise is an investment platform that came out, I believe it is in 2015, and just so intrigued with the idea that you can invest into real estate, that you don't have to put all your money into it, and you actually get to pool your money with other investors. And I was really intrigued by this because this sounded a lot like peer-to-peer lending, which for the most part still exists, but one of the big players there, Lending Club, is no longer part. They completely changed their business model. So whenever, Lending Club is going away, and then I start hearing about Fundrise and other crowdfunding real estate platforms, like I'm intrigued because I had good success with Lending Club. And that was like a newer asset class, investing into basically personal notes, into individual personal notes. Whereas real estate has been a key foundation for many investors for as longer I've been alive, for sure.
For as long as I can remember.
So in this video, I want to take some time and answer a few questions like, who is Fundrise, or what is Fundrise? What type of real estate do they invest in? What are the minimum requirements if you want to become an investor? How does Fundrise work? Is it safe? And I'm also going to give you a sneak peek of my personal Fundrise account so you can see how it works. So if that sounds like something that would interest you, be sure to stick around. And while you're here, go ahead and subscribe, hit that notification bell, because we've got more financial videos coming your way to help you accelerate your wealth building and help you take charge of your financial life. All right, let's go ahead and talk about who is or what is Fundrise. So who is or what is Fundrise? So Fundrise is a private REIT, which stands for Real Estate Investment Trust. And these type of investments, these have existed for quite some time, but typically if you wanted to invest into a private REIT, you had to have at least $25, $50, sometimes like $100,000. And for the everyday investor, we don't have that extra money just laying around. And if we did, do we want to put all that into a private REIT? Most commonly not. So basically the idea here was Fundrise wanted to create a platform that allowed the everyday investor to get into these investments that were typically reserved for the wealthy and the rich. But as far as kind of some stats about Fundrise, just to show you, I think they started in 2015. Currently, they have 260,000 investors. They've done over 7 billion in transactions. That's a lot of money. That's 7 with a B. They've also paid out 160 million in net dividends to their investors. That's pretty sweet. And here's a look at their total real estate portfolio right now. So they have 256 active projects. They have 126 completed projects. They're currently managing 2.65 billion. Wow. Okay.
Wow. Amazing.
And then they have the different strategies, which we'll talk more about here in a sec, but let's look here at the property types. So we've got 49%, about half in apartments, 20% in commercial, and then the other 31% in single family. So when you talk about having a diversified real estate portfolio, I mean, that is what Fundrise is bringing to the table. Because we're not talking about investing into just apartments or just residential. Like, we're also getting a slice of commercial property as well. If you don't know this already, to invest into commercial property, like, this is not something that just happens fairly easy. I mean, if you're going to invest into commercial property, like, you have to have a good chunk of money, and there's a lot of risk there. So the fact that you can get a slice of commercial property and not putting all your money into one property, because once again, you are crowdfunding. So a piece of the investment that you're putting in is shared with other people that are just like you, that are also investing into Fundrise, into these different types of properties. So you get a slice of that without the risk. The other thing that I love about Fundrise, and I've never seen this before in any other type of real estate investment, but the transparency that they offer. So for example, when you open an account and start investing with them, you see the properties that you are putting your money into. This is the 256 projects that Fundrise currently owns. And if you invest with them, you might end up owning one of these or some of these, but you can see, like, here's a single family home in Myrtle Beach. Here's one in Tucson, Arizona. We've got some sort of commercial building in Atlanta. We've got another commercial building here in Hanover, Maryland, home construction in Charlotte, another commercial property here in Virginia, a single family rental in Mississippi, another one in Alabama. We've got apartments in Texas. I mean, the list goes on and on. So the cool thing is, like, whenever you open your account, you see this, like, you see the properties that, based on the strategy that you choose, the investment strategy, you'll see the properties that you own. And whenever there is a new property that's added, you'll get a notification and they'll let you know. If there's a property they end up selling because of, I guess, we're going to take a profit, they let you know. And this is the stuff that you don't get if you're going to buy some sort of like real estate investment, like an ETF or a mutual fund. Like, you might see some of the companies that are owned, because there are companies that operate as a REIT. So you might see some of the companies that you own in these mutual funds and ETFs, but you're not going to see the properties like you see with Fundrise. Like, I just really, really love, like, how they do this. Just the transparency alone is huge.
Honesty is the best policy.
All right, so let's talk about some minimum investor requirements. Now, another huge plus with Fundrise, and there are some platforms that exist that are similar, but to invest into them, you would need to qualify as a credited investor. And what that basically means is that you have like $1 million net worth and you're making over 250 G's. I forgot the exact number, but basically you get high earner or you have a very high net worth. Well, with Fundrise, you don't have to be an accredited investor to get started. Now, they do have the premium offering over here on the right, which is initial investment of $100,000. And these are, as they describe, one-of-a-kind offerings designed for accredited investors. But if you're not there yet, that's okay, because they have all the other portfolios that you can get started in. So they have the starter plan, and this is with their simplest plan, basically zero experience with real estate, and you can get started for, yes, that is $10. And I should also add, if you are interested in signing up for Fundrise, I will have a link in the description that you can sign up for this starter plan. $10, and you can become a real estate investor. Another plan they have is the basic, which is $1,000. This also gets you access if you have a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA. You have to have at least $1,000 to do the IRA. Can't do that on the starter plan. So that's the other cool thing, that you can put this in a tax deferred account. They also have the core, which is $5,000, advanced for $10,000. And then you can see what you get with each of them. So with all plans, you get the dividend reinvestment. With Auto Invest, you get all the plans. With the Create and Manage Your Investor Goals, it is limited in the starter plan, which for me, that really hasn't been a big deal. I guess you could do the goals. That hasn't something I haven't taken full advantage of yet in the Fundrise platform. And I say that probably the biggest thing is the portfolio strategy. If you're doing the basic plan or the starter plan, you're not going to have access to all of the portfolios that Fundrise offers. But when I started doing some digging on what you do get, like what investments you do get access in the starter and the basic, I mean, I was actually really impressed in how diversified these investment strategies were. I mean, the other ones, yes, they were, I guess, better, maybe, access to a little bit more, but in all actuality, the fact that you are starting with maybe $1,000, maybe $10, like you are getting access to a diversified real estate portfolio that includes apartments and commercials and residential property. I mean, the fact that you can get access to that with as little as $10, like it's mind blowing to me. Like that is just how awesome, not just Fundrise, but just what technology has done that to allow places like Fundrise to exist.
Well, getting better.
Now, as I've mentioned before, you can invest into REITs. Like there are publicly traded REITs. So I think a really good question to ask then is, well, why Fundrise or why invest into private REITs? And they share these numbers here. And when I've done the research, like these numbers they hold up. What basically is showing you here, I'm actually going to refer to the chart to the right here. But if you invest into REITs, you get a 20-year average with a 5.4% return, as opposed to a private REIT. We're looking at about just over a 0.5% return. And maybe you think, oh, that's not a big deal. It's only 0.5%. Well, a 0.5% over a 20-year period, that's a lot of money. If you're investing $10,000, $20,000, I mean, we're talking potentially tens of thousands of dollars over that time frame. So yes, it's not that much more, but it's still more. And I think it's safe to say, like, why not take more, especially if we refer to a chart over here on the left, if we are getting less risk. So looking at publicly traded REITs versus private real estate, as we can see, so the farther to the right that we are, that means more risk that we are taking. So with the private REIT, we actually are getting less risk, but we have averaged a higher return over that 20-year period. And that's just one of the reasons. And the other thing too, and I can't find the page now, but transparency with not just the holdings, but also the fees. I mean, you might think like a place like Fundrise, okay, well, this sounds really, really good, but what about the fees? Like, how much am I paying? And we could talk about the fees. We'll also talk about the returns. I'll share some of the returns that Fundrise shares on their website. But in looking at fees, like this is how they report or how they compare with their private REITs versus the other options that exist out there. So here is a blog post that Fundrise put on their website that talks about the fees and how much the fees can be, how much they are. And I actually love how they did this because they also give you some examples of some public REITs that you can go out and purchase in the marketplace right now. So they're comparing to the Blackstone Real Estate Income Trust and the Starwood Real Estate Income Trust. So with both of these, you'd have to pay a commission. Basically, if you're familiar with mutual funds and loads, you'd have to pay a upfront commission to buy these. And as I mentioned, these REITs that are available where you're putting in 25,000, 50,000, or 100,000, yes, you'd have to pay a load or a commission on any of those that I mentioned. Now, this is kind of beyond the scope of this video, but with a lot of those, you're paying a commission, but you don't see it. That was the other reason why a lot of advisors love to sell these things, because they pay a really fat commission. And the best part is that the client didn't see it. Anyway, so with Fundrise, no upfront commission, annual servicing fee. Both of these are charging 0.85%. What's Fundrise charge? 0.15%. Annual management fee, 1.25. Fundrise, 0.85. How about any carry interest profits above 5% preferred? Return huddle, 12.5%, none. And that's actually another way that these private REITs would get you, is that if there was any interest that was carried over, guess who's taking some of that profit? Them. And it's kind of like this, like, hey, we made you so much money, we're going to take like a bonus for how well that we did. Whereas Fundrise is like, no, like that's, we did good, so you do good. You get to keep all of those profits.
I really think I can.
Now let's talk about their returns, and they update this every single quarter on their website so you can see how they are doing. So going back to, let's just start at 2020. So in Fundrise, they averaged 7.31%. Compare that to the public REIT sector. They actually lost negative 5.86%. Stock market, yes, stock market did good. We can remember that in 2020, 18.4%. What about 2021? Fundrise, 22.99%. Public REITs, 39.88%. Public stocks, 28.71%. And then the first quarter into 2022, we've got a 3.49% return for Fundrise. Public REITs down 5.27, public stocks 4.6 down. And let me just kind of point out real quick, anytime public REITs outperform Fundrise in 2021, but when you partner that with a down year and another down year, and I mean, we've got another down year in 2018, that is, anytime you have a down quarter or a down year, like, it is not impossible, but that much more difficult to recover. Like, you could have a lot of solid years to make up. You know, it seems like, oh, well, they're up, 18% more, in 21. So public REITs should have a higher average. But man, when you've got not just one, not just two, but 3 down years in a 5-year block, it just makes it really hard. Not that you're losing money, because your average is still going to be net positive. But when you compare that to positive, and you have all of that, like, that's where over the long term you will outperform. So based on what we're seeing here with Fundrise returns, if they were to continue this trend, then they should outperform. They are currently outperforming the other investments here, not stocks per se, but the other public REITs. So they are outperforming right now, and they continue this, and there should be no reason. And just to show you once again, you can see the average income return here at the bottom, 5.42% compared to 4.34. And as I mentioned earlier, if you are averaging a 0.5% more, that is a lot of money over 20 years. We're talking over 1%. Now we're talking even more money. Like, that is how much of an impact making a 0.5% or 1% can have on your total investment portfolio.
Exactly how safe is this, sir?
I think another important question you should be asking yourself is, like, how safe is Fundrise? So Fundrise, they are not a publicly traded company, but they do have to report all of their information with the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission. For those that don't know who the SEC is, anytime you're dealing with any sort of investment, like a brokerage firm, like whenever I had my financial planning practice, I had to get registered through the SEC. So they are keeping tabs on Fundrise, all of their different transactions, what they're offering, any of the returns that we saw on their website. Like that, the SEC has to review those, because if they are misinforming or misrepresenting any of these returns, I mean, they would get fined. I don't think get shut down in an instant. That would only happen if they were just continuing to, have violation after violation. But you have to, all these numbers have to be vetted. Like, you have to be able to show, okay, you say that you made 22%, 9%, whatever the numbers are, but you have to be able to back that up. So they're going through all their financials and taking a look to see, is this accurate? And I've seen a lot of situations where either it be an investment advisor, some sort of investment firm, that they were touting their how much they've made their clients, and turns out like, oh wait, no, that wasn't 100% accurate. You were just kind of like filling in some numbers to make it sound better than it is. And anyway, if Fundrise were to do that, the SEC would be on them in a hurry. Now, I've talked a lot about Fundrise, crowdfunding, real estate, and just how cool it is. But does that mean that they are the only game in town? Absolutely not. There are others out there that exist. I don't know if Fundrise was the first to market, but I will say that they definitely have done a really, really good job marketing themselves, but also delivering. I mean, whether it's their website online, like just the client interface, they have an amazing app you can also use. They've just done a really good job, and I've been very happy with my returns, which we'll get to here in one sec. But as far as other options that exist out there, you have Realty Mogul. Like, this is another one. Now with Realty Mogul, I believe you do have to be an accredited investor. So you got to have that income requirement. You also got to have the net worth. Another one though, this is more I believe that they, CrowdStreet, I think they do more on the commercial side, and I don't have experience with either of these yet. Fundrise is kind of one I started with, and I'm looking at these two as a potential, and I may open up an account with both of these just to see, just to compare. But as I'm scrolling through the website, you can see some similarities in how they do their investments compared to Fundrise. But once again, Fundrise is not the only crowdfunding real estate player out there. CrowdStreet, Realty Mogul, there's a few others that exist out there. These are the two that I'm familiar with. I don't know if there's like an order, like Fundrise is 1 and this is 2 and this is 3, but I know these are I think Roofstock is also another one that exists out there. But just so you know, like, there are options. Now I just want to spend some time taking a look at one of my Fundrise accounts. I say one of because I think I actually have 2 different accounts. This is the larger one of the 2. And I started with Fundrise. It's been over 4 years. And I guess I should also add, I'll have a link in the description. I have a video where I talk about the 4-year returns of Fundrise. It kind of goes a little bit deeper dive into a Fundrise account. But this is taking a look at my current Fundrise account right now. So you can see I am at the core account level. My investment plan is long-term growth. You can see my historical average started with 1,000 there. I think I added some more there, some more there. Recently just added some more because Fundrise has an IPO, which is like an online IPO. Beyond the scope of this video, but also something very intriguing. You can also see my tax documents already. Got to get those to my CPA. But here, let's look at there's like the advisory fees for 2022, $3.32. Total fees, $34.70. Total returns to date is $3,064.56. And let me actually give you a bigger breakdown so you can see the percentage return, which we saw a little bit on the website. Mine might be a little bit different based off the types of REITs. So here's like all the different REITs that they offer. And this is what you're going to get if you get into the different plans. You go from the starter to basic to core. So I've got an East Coast REIT, which is focusing on investment properties on the East Coast. And they have a Heartland, they have a West Coast, they've got a balance, a growth, development, I cannot say that word, a flagship. You can see all the different percentages that I'm invested into. And this is what I started at the beginning. I haven't really adjusted this. I don't even know. I mean, I've not attempted to adjust it. I was like, all right, this is how I started. And I'm feeling pretty good about it. Once again, here is the return. And I kind of like this because you can look at the net returns. So in 2022, I had $67 in dividends earned. I had $163 in appreciation. There's those advisory fees. You can see in 2021, that was the appreciation. I'm assuming there was a sell-off of some property, and that's what netted the appreciation there. And you can just see like the gain as it continues to grow. I mean, let me just also point out like how sweet this is. I mean, just the interface alone is just like super easy to use, and anything that you need is all right here. And as I mentioned earlier, talking about the portfolio, check this out. I just absolutely love this. So I think we saw some of these on their homepage, but here is some of the properties. So you can look at investment size, you can look at strategy. These are the ones that are recently acquired, and just shows like all the different properties. Now, the cool thing is at one time, I remember if I wanted to, I remember there was I believe there's an apartment complex that they had here, like they had recently acquired, and it was one that I partially owned, and it actually was in the Nashville area. And if I wanted to, I could actually get in my car and drive and see a real estate property that I own. Look, they have like actually I've never clicked on this before. You can see like the map of where the properties are. How cool is that? I'm guessing, oh yeah, let's see. All right, so yeah, like here's Nashville, here's Brentwood, so this is just north of me. Was this the one I was thinking of? I don't know. Does it show? Yeah. So I don't think they give you the address, but I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure I could find this. So this is opportunistic, a new apartment development, which makes total sense since Nashville is growing. What's this other one? A stabilized apartments. Oh my gosh, like, yeah, this is it actually. I'm 95% positive I have I drove by this. I need to double check because I've seen this design somewhere. Yeah, like look, there's the address. So I could drive there today if I wanted and see this investment. Like I own this. So let's look at the details. I mean, this is the stuff that they give you, right? Stabilized apartments in Nashville, Tennessee. Key facts, part of the Core Plus portfolio. Investment size, 10.8 million. Projected return, market analysis. I mean, yeah. So it gives you updates anytime like there's something that is changed, if they bought it, if they sold it, if there's just any developments here. It's just really cool. Here's like all my different transactions, performance we already looked at, overview. What can I say? I just tell me that you are going to try to buy some sort of public REIT. Maybe it's a stock, maybe it's a Vanguard real estate ETF or a mutual fund. They're not going to give you anything that looks anything like this. Nowhere close. And that is what I love about Fundrise. And just throw in the fact that you can get started for as little as $10. I mean, that is freaking awesome. That is so awesome. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this video doing a Fundrise review. Once again, if you want to check out the other videos I have that are on my other channel where I share a little bit more in depth of the returns I've had. And that is a video that I will update every single year as I continue to own my Fundrise investment or Fundrise portfolio. If you're interested in Fundrise, once again, I'll have a link in the description. You can sign up, get started as a real estate investor with as little as $10. That's how simple it is. Invest in yourself, build wealth. All right, so until next time, this is Jeff Rose reminding you that it's your money, it's your life, and only you can make it awesome. Until next time, peace.